Previously on a neat retelling.
What the fuck? Oh, mighty and powerful host, I have come from the inner walls to bid my wish into the great ether.
And hello to you too. Didn't I just see you? I don't think the axe damage was really necessary, but alright, I'll bite. What are you thinking?
Surely you wouldn't choose to torture me after breaking my wall.
Castlevania.
Okay, you've got to be more specific. We can't even play half those games due to the lack of tech or localizations.
What? No, the Netflix series that came out in... Shit, that does really say 2017. I guess that makes sense. I vaguely remember being in high school.
Now is not the time for power word age, River.
Alright, I guess since Dracula and Carmilla are major figures, it does indeed count.
Wait a minute. You just want to talk about Trevor Belmont.
If Nick can talk about their sad little meow meow who's tangentially related to the pod, then so can I!
Fair enough. So, dear listeners, I guess our next episode is going to be on the first 2 seasons of Netflix's Castlevania.
Jonathan Harker's journal, kept in shorthand. 3 May, Bistritz. Left Munich at 8:35 p.m. on 1st May, arriving at Vienna early the next morning. Should have arrived at 6:46, the train was an hour late. Budapest seems a wonderful place, from the glimpse which I got of it from the train, and the little I could walk through the streets. I feared to go very far from the station, as we had arrived late and would start as near to the correct time as possible. Having some time at my disposal when in London, I had visited the British Museum and made my search among the books and maps in the library regarding Transylvania. It had struck me that some foreknowledge of the country I could hardly fail to have some importance in dealing with the noblemen of that country. I find that district he named is in extreme east of the country, just on the borders of 3 states, Transylvania, Moldavia, and Bukovina, in the midst of the Carpathian Mountains, one of the wildest and least known portions of Europe. I was not able to light on any map or work giving the exact locality of Castle Dracula, as there were no maps of this country as yet to compare with our own Ordnance Survey maps. But I found that Bistritz, the post town named by Count Dracula, is a fairly well-known place.
Welcome to A Neat Retelling, the podcast where we explore all the ways old tales are made new.
And welcome to our second episode of Monster Month 3, Dream Warriors in the Underworld.
A young girl feels her soul awaken.
There is a darkness upon the land.
The meanest dog you'll ever meet, he ain't the hound dog in the street. He bears some teeth and tears some skin, but brother, that's the worst of him. The dog you really gotta dread is the one that howls inside your head. It's him whose howling drives men mad and a mind to its undoing.
Where fairy tales end and nightmares begin.
You'd think they never met a girl cool before.
Don't dream it, be it. Don't dream it, be it.
I'm coming!
I am your host, Jasmine Garcia, and joining me today are...
My name is Nick Belmont of House Belmont, and dying has never frightened me. Also, may I have a beer?
We'll need to talk about that, mister.
My name is Katie Duffy, and I have been waiting for this moment since 1997, when I was first introduced to Adrian Fahrenheit Tepesch.
That's his middle name?
Yup!
Yes, his middle name is Fahrenheit.
What? Did his parents love him?
Oh, yes.
In theory, yes.
It is heavily implied that Dracula's middle name is Dracula, so, you know. Lisa had a special interest, and she was not getting bent from it.
God, I love her.
Dracula's one of those people that just goes by their middle name. Hi, I'm Violet, and I saw a man so beautiful I started crying, and that man is Alucard.
Hashtag Team Alucard.
Hashtag Team Alucard.
And our Wish Master Guest of Honor themselves.
Hi, it's River. And 2025 continues to be proof that God continues to shit in all of our dinners.
God, yeah. And they have decided for their first wish, they want us to discuss the first 2 seasons of Netflix's Castlevania. So the question must be, why that, River?
It was the one that required the least amount of, prep work, all things considered. One of the other wishes is technically in the cadre. It's Isabel Adelaide's Zorro Allende. I don't know how to pronounce her name, I'm so sorry. Or the BBC Robin Hood series. But both of those require way, way, way more time. And this required less time because it is objectively just a really long movie, all things considered.
Can confirm.
Number 2, this is the strongest case for any of Castlevania to be considered a quote-unquote retelling. The rest of it is very much a fantasy vampire story where some of the characters happen to have names alluding to the characters. For example, Carmilla continues to be a prevalent figure into seasons 3 and 4, but she's mostly Carmilla in name only.
And oh boy, will we get to that.
Ruthven gets mentioned in Nocturne as a off-screen villain that our older Belmont fights in Nocturne, but he's never shown on screen. So this, as the self-contained, we're on a vengeance quest to go kill Dracula, is not disproving my point that I'm sick and tired of waiting for love to come the modern way. I'm gonna wait for somebody to come and swoop me off my feet to go on a vengeance quest to go kill Dracula. And B, this is a self-contained, essentially the Siege of the Castle bit from Dracula.
Very fair. All right, well, with that in mind, what is everyone's connection to the Dracula mythos and also to the Castlevania oeuvre in general?
Dracula sits on my bookshelf, haunting me.
You could have done Dracula Weekly with us. Hell, we really could have used your help in defeating him.
I know this. One of these days, it'll jump off my bookshelf, physically attack me, and I'll have to actually fucking read it. But until such point in time, it sits on my shelf, menacingly.
It mocks you.
I think my first encounter, everybody knows about, vampires and Dracula. It's cultural osmosis at this point. I wanted to see Interview with the Vampire when it came out, but I was a little bit young. I probably would not have vibed with it. I did see it later. It's probably one of my favorite movies. Definitely one of my favorite Halloween flicks, along with Only Lovers Left Alive. But when it comes to Castlevania, I guess actually my very first encounter was when I was very young, because I'm very old, and played Castlevania 2 Simon's Quest, which is not a great game. Later on, when I was in high school, my boyfriend at the time had a PlayStation, and in addition to being very obsessed with Final Fantasy VII, he was also very obsessed with Castlevania. This was the first time that I'd ever really been introduced to role-playing games with these 2 games, and I'm terrible at platformers. So he tried to teach me how to play Symphony of the Night, and I was terrible at it. And he got so frustrated, he was like, just give me the controller. And he actually played my file, which was actually fine by me, because I was less engaged with the gameplay because, again, terrible at platformers, but I was really entranced by this story. You have, in the Symphony of the Night game, you have a Belmont, Richter, who right at the beginning of the game, you're playing him, you defeat Dracula, and then, it kind of has a cut scene where it talks about how Castle Dracula disappeared, but then 10 years later reappeared, strangely, which was out of sync because usually it's once a century. There's no Belmont around. Richter Belmont has disappeared, and so Alucard has to come out of his slumber to go defeat his dad. So it's a platformer, but it has role-playing elements, but that kind of main through line of you are one dude taking on all of Dracula's armies so you can go kill your dad. That was something that I had never really encountered before. I'd never really thought of before. The idea of Dracula having a son was intriguing to me. The incredible Bishonen art that accompanied that game for Alucard also did not help my obsession. And so when they announced that there was going to be a Castlevania show, I told one of my dear friends, I'm like, I'm not watching it unless Alucard's in it. And she's like, well, he is. It's like, oh, really? And then they gave him a super sexy voice, and that's all she wrote.
Hi, James Kalis. Now you understand what I mean when I was watching Bridget Jones's Diary, and I'm looking at the guy who's got the one-hit wonder, and I'm like, Alucard, what the fuck are you doing in my rom-com?
Oh, that's who. Oh my god.
That's
yeah!
Same actor, incredible. And the voice acting in this show is so good.
It's so fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
For those playing at home, I have a thing for guys with accents. Case in point, my husband is Irish. So yeah, I will watch Castlevania all day, every day.
I think that's like part of, not to gender on Maine, but I do think that's just part of being a little girl, is finding the right accent that tickles your brain space and
British Isles.
never knowing
British
peace.
Isles.
Yeah.
Damn.
In terms of my connection to the Dracula mythos, if I talked about Dracula specifically, we would be here all day. Suffice to say, I first read it in 8th grade. I really love Dracula the book, and I love how many adaptations there are. It is something I deeply love, but I'm not precious about. Castlevania, I have less of a connection to outside of the anime. I can't remember why I was interested in it. I guess just because vampires and Dracula. It wasn't something I'm aware of being aware of growing up. It was not something that anyone in my life was like playing video game wise, and I don't have the right systems to play any of the Castlevanias, but I remember like trying to watch a Let's Play of Symphony of the Night and bouncing off of it, because as beautiful as the artwork and character designs are by Ayami Kojima, it just wasn't my style of game. But the anime, I'm a huge fan of. I have seen the first 3 seasons. I have yet to get to season 4 or Castlevania Nocturne, but I do really hope that eventually they do like a proper Symphony of the Night adaptation, because what I know of the story is really compelling. It's just the gameplay wasn't quite for me. Closest I have come to playing a Castlevania is Vampire Survivors Castlevania DLC, which is fantastic. There's a moment partway through that, even as someone who is not familiar with Castlevania outside of the anime, I got really emotional about. So yeah, I love vampires.
Because I was in high school when it was coming out, as mentioned in the promo from last week. Sorry, y'all. You're getting Power Word age, but in reverse. I was still in high school in 27. And
Christ. I'm going to reference Halloween month 2, The Dead Are Rising now, because it's my legal obligation. I was out here paying actual US dollars to go see The Mummy 2017 in theaters with Tom Cruise while you were in high school.
Yep. Anyway, so I remember one of my friends who's deep into animation talking about it and being really into it. And I just kind of was like, okay, yeah, that's cool. And I sort of brushed it off. I don't remember if season 2 or season 3 had dropped or like was about to drop. And so I like watched season 2, or I watched seasons 1 and 2 in preparation for season 3. I remember distinctly, I changed my Discord icon to one of the screen grabs of Trevor leaning against the tabletop in the bar from season 1 with a little bit of like, drunk blush over his face. And my friend immediately DM'd me on Discord being like, is your icon fucking Trevor Belmont? And I'm like, yeah, I finally watched it. And she's like, fucking knew that asshole would be your favorite. God Christ. And I asked her like, oh, like, why didn't you recommend it to me or something? And she's like, because getting you to watch anything is hell. If I just let you find it on your own and then come back to me with your findings, it's much easier to get you to watch it that way. And I'm like, we know, but hey! I don't have any gaming experience because video games are one of my pop culture blind spots. I'm trying to slowly but surely fill it in right now by downloading all of the Resident Evil lore into my brain.
Okay, so Dracula. Gosh, okay, my first, I watched Interview with the Vampire as a teenager because I was a rebellious teenager.
Oh, I'm sure your mom was thrilled.
Well, she hadn't gone fully down the pipeline yet. We were fine.
Fair enough.
And I also watched The Vampire Diaries, the originals and legacies, because I am nothing if not predictable, everybody.
I do love how you're dodging the obvious.
Vampire thing that actually got the two of us started, Nick.
Look, I'm trying to be mature and responsible here.
If only there was some kind of journal that you could record your history with vampires in.
Fine. You know what? Fine. You know what? The Jazz has only herself, okay? There's a podcast that was formerly called Are You Afraid of the Dark Universe?
I was talking about Twilight. I was talking about Twilight, my dude.
I was talking about the Vampire Diaries. Wow, we were both off.
Off to a banging start, y'all.
Okay, that's Dracula, though. So I've ever talking about Dracula.
Well, yeah, but also, Interview with the Vampire doesn't have Dracula in it. It's very...
Yeah.
Listen, okay, y'all gotta stop confusing me. My brain hurts.
Pat. But
so, Nick. You helped us defeat Dracula too. What are you talking about? Moving on.
Then there's that podcast that I just mentioned where they wrote Dracula, and it was great. You should go listen. They also just did a reboot, and it's going to be interesting and great, and so you should go listen to that.
Speaking of podcasts, in each retelling.
Yes, where we retell the retellings of the retellings.
Where you spent all of last year kicking the snot out of Dracula.
Yes, we did spend the last year beating the snot out of Dracula.
It was great. Dracula Weekly. That was my first time actually reading the novel. Dear fucking God. Bram Stoker, were you being paid by the word?
Yes.
Yeah.
Probably.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of the time they were.
I figured as much.
Getting your email from your good friend Jonathan Harker.
Yeah.
Jonathan, but oh my fucking God.
Yeah, we kind of
That book dragged on.
we kind of drew the conclusion that we love the characters, but the book itself kind of belly flopped by the end.
That ending was anyway. That's a whole other conversation. But
Also, not a falling in love to go on a vengeance quest to go kill Dracula.
Yeah.
I mean, if we're talking about Jasmina and Jonathan, they were already in love. Now, the polycule, on the other hand.
Nick, did you talk about your connection to Castlevania? I can't remember a time before we were razzing you about vampires. I'm a different person now.
that time that doesn't exist. Because I am being razzed 24/7 about that.
Listen, you gotta stop making it so easy.
I'm not mad. But I do have to be snarky about it. Because that's my brand. Because that's why I picked them. Because they match the brand.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway,
Okay.
Castlevania.
I heard about it when River wished for it. And then I watched it today. at 4 hours on 1.5 speed. Because I was a last minute sub.
Yup.
And it was great.
Woo! And as I joked in the chat, it wouldn't be the first time the chipmunks met a monster.
Okay, so actually it didn't sound like chipmunks. It actually sounded pretty reasonably decent
Oh, goody.
at 1.5 speed.
Even better.
Yeah, 1.5 is what I have to listen to podcasts at to, like, get my brain to process things in, like, a normal manner.
Very fair.
1.5 is basically ADHD cheat code of, like, oh, these people are talking at a speed in which I now understand.
I feel like I don't need that.
Yeah.
I feel like, my voice does not need that.
I talk like a Gilmore Girl.
Yeah, no, same.
Fascinating. So yeah, that's my connection to Castlevania. I heard about it when River wished for it. Never fucking heard of it before that moment, which shocked River.
Yeah, I had heard of Castlevania just through cultural osmosis, and I have actually seen the first season of this show before, because it was all over my Tumblr dashboard back when it was first coming out.
Of course it was.
Of course it was. And I was like, oh, okay. And I immediately fell in love with Lisa Tepish, and I will never know peace, unfortunately.
Yeah, you handshake Jess on that effect.
Nice Dracula impression.
Yeah. No, I get it, my dude. I do get it to a degree. Like, fuck that shit. Where is my movie about Lisa and Dracula's life together? I ask you.
It is a lovely day at Dracula's castle, and you are a horrible human woman.
She's not horrible.
You are a wonderful human woman.
Thank you.
And that is Dr. Lisa Tepish to you.
But she still has the instinct of
Well, yes, but sometimes Dracula needs to have his ass called out.
Lisa, our
So,
darling.
Like I said, yeah. Dracula, cultural osmosis. I definitely have watched the 90s version, which I have mixed feelings about. And I was even part of a reading that Violet, I believe, was also in.
The thing about Bram Stoker's Dracula is that on paper, it should be a slam dunk for teen girls everywhere.
Yes.
But every time I've watched or read it, it's been like, wow, this is nothing.
I don't even know if it's nothing. It's just, how dare you put the author's name in it? Like, yes, you are technically more accurate than most adaptations have been, but just the treatment of Mina and Lucy, Mr. Coppola, when I find you.
To be fair, Coppola did tone it down in his adaptation compared to the original. But we're getting off track.
We are, but
we
will talk about that one day.
We have sad drunken anime boy to talk about.
Yes, we do. But
And
yes.
beautiful, sad anime vampire.
Yes.
Yes.
Most beautiful woman ever to grace the screen.
Two
Yeah.
beautiful women, arguably.
More importantly, we have a sad drunk boy.
Dear listeners, we have a bit of a throwback to the YA love interest teams here. We have Team Alucard, and we have Team Trevor Belmont. So let's go.
We start with a at the door.
We do start with a knock at the door.
And the future Mrs. Dr. Lisa Tepish just kind of waltzes in, calls out Dracula's ass for being a rude host.
And he immediately falls in love with her, which, frankly, iconic of him.
Iconic of him. Love this
He's
for
like,
him.
oh, you're mean to me. I love you.
And then 5 seconds later, she's getting burned at the stake.
5 seconds later.
Is that a record for fridging? Is that a record?
No. Listen, you must understand going into this series that Castlevania loves 3 things. Number 1, epic fight scenes. Number 2, witty dialogue that is both profound and philosophical, and then 5 seconds later, God shits in my dinner once again. Number 3, taking the fucking piss out of organized religion and those who would use it to gain power.
Yes. And additionally, I know for a fact that in the games, like, there's a very famous moment where Dracula out and out screams, "Where's my wife?" So, they had to.
There's also in Symphony of the Night, a little trivia. At one point, you go to what looks like a save point, but it's not a save point. So Alucard, he basically goes into this weird waking dream where he sees his mother and she's about to get killed. And he's all freaking out, as anybody would. And his mother is like, before I die, there's one thing I must tell you. And he's like, what is it? And she goes, I want you to kill every human. And he's like, wait, that's not what my mom, wait, what's going on? Long story short, he has to fight a succubus who disguised himself as his mom.
Okay, Oedipus complex time.
So he fights a succubus, she dies, and the voice acting for it is kind of that was an interesting choice for a PG game. Okay.
Yeah, Oedipus.
Watching the show, when we're watching, poor Lisa perishing, all I could think of was, I swear to God, if Alucard shows up and she does the, Bender Rodriguez line of kill all humans, I'm gonna freak out.
We must show the humans the error of their ways with violence.
I think one of the things that is really, really excellent about the opening couple of minutes in this first episode is, number 1, you get Lisa just screaming to the heavens. They don't know what they're doing. Do not fucking do this. I know exactly what you're about to do, my husband. Do not fucking do this.
They know not what they do.
Talk about an on-the-nose Christ allegory.
Yes.
Forgive them, Father. They know not what they do.
Exactly.
Yeah, he is God.
But and then you get to Dracula, and it sets up this incredible dichotomy of Dracula is incredibly sympathetic, because we already like Lisa. We're mad that Lisa's dead. We too want to watch the church burn to the ground. But we also know that this motherfucker's about to go overboard.
Yeah.
Have we not been wanting that for our entire lives, or is that just a me thing? Is that just...
Religion can be used more or less ethically, but it has tended to be used in unethical ways in the past. I go with God about your own faith tradition, but for the sake of argument, religion can be used more or less ethically.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Do you think it's also worth pointing out that, this is a show that is presenting a very, anti-church view? It's more of, the Christian traditions rather than all organized religions. But, yeah, this is a show that has incredible sympathy for Dracula as a character. And Lisa is a load-bearing fridge in the fact that, none of this particular story happens the way it does if she does not die. You have to have that motivation in place. And I think what this show does really well is by giving us moments of seeing Lisa when she was alive, allowing us to sympathize and like her as a character in her moments of screen time. And Emily Swallow does a fantastic job voicing Lisa. So you do really feel for her and sympathize for Dracula, regardless of how much she is actually in the show. Her presence is very much felt.
Yeah, as I put it in my notes, it's incredibly sympathetic Dracula, which makes everything come as both I would have done the fucking same, and then 2 seconds later, but cool motive, still murder.
Yeah.
Which is helped when Alucard kicks in the door and is like, Mother would not want you to do this. You cannot start a genocide in my mother's name, because that is the last thing she would have wanted. And I will grieve with you, but I'm not gonna let you do this.
I do want to say that was interesting for me to see, because again, my introduction to Alucard was from the game. And in the game, it's implied that he is hundreds of years old, because he encounters another character that shows up, Maria, I can never remember her last name, Renard, I think.
Yeah, it's Renard.
Yeah. And both she and later on, spoiler alert, he does encounter Richter, and they're both like, wait a minute, you're hundreds of years old. And so to see him there being like, no, Dad, don't do this. And I had to chuckle because I've always had this theory in my mind of like, you are Adrian Fahrenheit Tepesh. You are a child of wealth and a child of means. Your father is definitely a noble. It is kind of implied that your mother is, because in the games, I'm such a nerd, he starts out with a weapon called the Alucard sword and the Alucard shield. If you look up what those weapons are, it actually says it comes from his mom. It's implied that they're blessed. So, he's a child of privilege. He lives in this beautiful castle. He is surrounded by, they're all what we consider creepy monsters, but to him, they are like the family servants. Good evening, Master Alucard. And every few years, a literal insane person from an insane family shows up at his house, murders the servants, wrecks all the furniture looking for food and power-ups, and then tries to kill his dad.
Yeah.
It's just another Tuesday.
Yeah, but also, Dracula keeps trying to kill people. Like, the games and this show are kind of... they do it a lot more vehemently in Nocturne, where Nocturne really settles on the vampires as aristocracy allegory, and that they will drain the lifeblood of peasants. They're also an allegory for colonialism in Nocturne as well. But
I mean, stack of pancakes, River.
This one, they do start to, like, poke at that idea of the vampires as the aristocracy and all they can do. Like, there is no version of an ethical vampire in Nocturne, in Castlevania. There's, like, kind of implications of one in Nocturne, but in Castlevania specifically, there is no ethical vampire. There is no little drink. There is only big drink. Which means that, Dracula's fucking right. All of these vampires are going to be dead within a year if his plan goes off as planned, because he doesn't actually have a contingency to what to do with the humans once they're all dead. Like, he has no plan on feeding these people.
It was a year-long suicide mission.
Yes, it's a year-long suicide note. But that is, one of those things where it's like, so, like, yes, the Belmonts are a chaos-wielding, rock up and fight all the vampires and fight all the monsters and things that go bump in the night. But in a world where those things that go bump in the night are not in any way, to their knowledge, a way of being, like, coexisting, like, there is no version of this understanding of reality where these monsters can coexist, which is why, like, there's a reason that Monster Hunter stories always exist, and this is very, very much a Monster Hunter story. There is no coexistence, there is only... one of us gets to make it through tonight, And
I think that the show does a really good job of balancing that by being so sympathetic to Dracula and positioning Alucard as a heroic figure, as he is in Symphony of the Night and in Castlevania 3, Dracula's Curse, which is the primary inspiration for this show. But at the same time, the show, while it is focused on vampires and examining that, it doesn't lose sight of the fact that the video games, you are predominantly playing as a Belmont, and you are predominantly playing as one of these monster hunters. And so the first season does a really good job of setting up what that legacy means and, like, what someone of the Belmont name could do in this kind of situation where there is nuance in the individual, but you also have Dracula's armies slaughtering humans. You have Dracula waging war against humanity in his grief over his wife. So you can empathize with what he's doing, but also root for Trevor to succeed. It's really good about presenting different viewpoints and getting you to root for those people to each succeed, even when their goals are at odds.
Also, side note, when Dracula rocks up the second time after the, like, town of Targovishta thinks it's safe and is like, you're celebrating murdering my wife? You think I won't follow through, you cowards? Has anyone done a Plagues from
Prince of Egypt
edit to that scene?
They should.
I feel like someone needs
They should.
I feel like somebody needs to do an edit of the Plagues rocking up to ruin Targovishta's day.
1 year. I gave you 1 year to make your peace with your God. And what do? Celebrate the day you killed my wife. 1 year I gave you while I assembled my armies. And now I bring your death. You had your chance.
Also, I've got to say, there is something like very dark fairy tale in the way he's just like, hey, I'm giving you a year to make peace with your god, and then I am coming back. Like, there's something about, let's face it, he is a villainous character, even though we have a whole lot of sympathy for him, and we are kind of rooting for him to a certain degree.
Yeah.
Like, but yeah, just the way it's just like, you have a year, do with that what you will.
Make your peace.
Yeah.
It's very Sir Gawain and the Green Knight.
Yes.
You have reaped what you have sowed.
Yeah, and it's also very funny because in practicality, Dracula, when he's like turns the disaster off, he's just like, shit, I gotta go get my fucking generals and it's gonna take them a fucking year to get here. So it's like a practical matter for him. Like, he's presenting as this big bad and like, you know, oh yes, make peace with everything. And you know, you think that like, is it an act of mercy? Is it a scare tactic? And no, it's just a practical measure. He just has to go get the rest of these fucks, and they don't have Twitter yet, so he's gotta go write some letters.
But no, it's also just like, you know, there's when he sees the old lady in the ruins of his house, like, I thought that was a really cool scene to really establish his like sympathy as a character, because it's like, she's like, it's not right what they're doing to your wife, and I wasn't going to go watch and celebrate with them. She took care of me when I was sick. She was a good woman. She said you were traveling. Like, and he sees that she paid attention to his wife and what she did. And so he's like, I do this as a last act of kindness to her. Grab your family and get the fuck out of here. You need to get the fuck out, because otherwise you ain't gonna fucking survive this shit. So get the fuck out, bitch. I just thought that was a really nice way to try to establish that he's not a complete monster. You know, he is a monster, but
Lisa made some effort.
Yeah.
Lisa tried so hard, but, you know, he's not a complete monster, and he was trying to do all of this for her. That's why he says, I do this last kindness in her name, because she loved you humans.
Yeah, it's interesting that in the first season, Dracula's vengeance is geared towards the people of Wallachia. He is hell-bent on, in a year, he's going to kill every human in Wallachia for what has happened to his wife. And then when we do get to season 2, he has evolved to, I'm going to kill all humans. So the stakes have escalated that way. You know, we are continuing to root for Trevor and Alucard and Sypha to take out Dracula, because his end game is no longer sustainable. It's no longer something that is as sympathetic.
Yeah.
It's not justifiable. You cannot justify killing the entire world because one town killed your wife.
Again, like, you know, I would have done the same handshake, but it's cool motive, still murder, which is Dracula's whole dichotomy going into this. And then, of course, we get, all right, Dracula has established that he is the big bad. His dear son has been slashed with blood. We don't know if he's dead or alive. Who's our final hope for survival? A drunkard in a bar trying to hide from a bunch of people besmirching his family's good name. Hello, Trevor Belmont. Maybe sober up before you throw that first punch, buddy.
My little guy.
I gotta ask, because I guess I have to be the public domain person on Maine. Why is it that they decided to just invent a whole new monster hunting family instead of just making it about the Van Helsings in the games, do you think? Do we know, or is it just because?
Because you can get more of them. Because, like, with Van Helsing, you have Abraham, and it's not implied that Abraham ever had children.
I have yet to see that stop anybody before.
Right, but, like, with the Belmonts, you can sort of make up your own lore. You're not beholden to, you know, what the Van Helsing does. You can get weirder with it. You can spawn as many kids as you want throughout the centuries, forever and ever until we die.
But again, that has not stopped anyone before. There are several pieces of media that basically surround the Van Helsing family tree and make up a whole bunch of new Van Helsings. Admittedly, it's almost a cliche at this point.
Yeah, we haven't gotten a new kid in a while. I suspect we're probably going to get one with the Switch 2, if I'm being completely honest. I would not be surprised if it's not in their pipeline. Or at least some of the more ports over.
Yeah. It's also worth considering that when the first Castlevania games were coming out in the 80s, Dracula wasn't yet out of copyright. So you could use Vlad Dracul as someone, but not necessarily the book, as it were, and
Sure.
yeah, like taking more inspiration and names for your cool Metroidvania.
You can't call it a Metroidvania if half of that is Castlevania.
I was just going to say Metroidvania. Sorry, again, big nerd. That actually, I sound like I'm like the ultimate Castlevania Symphony of the Night fangirl, and I'm not. I kind of am, but I'm not. But that was the first game that actually fell under the Metroidvania heading, because when they were making the game originally, they found like an endpoint, and they realized, well, that it takes like an hour and a half, maybe two, to beat this whole thing. We have to do something. So there was discussions about like, oh my god, this means we have to make new maps. We have to like basically start the game over again. What are we going to do? And then some genius at Konami goes, wait a minute. What if we take the castle map and flip it upside down? And that was their solution.
Yeah.
You go through the first half of the game. You rescue Richter. I have a rant about the Belmonts in general, which I will get to in a second. But you rescue Richter, and Alucard's like, just go home. I'll take care of this. You transport over to another castle. It's the same castle, only upside down, and you have to fight your way back through that castle upside down. And when I say upside down, I don't mean that like, oh, like, so the rooms that are on the, were on the bottom are now on the top. No, the entire map flips, so you're running around on ceilings, essentially. Places that normally you would have been able to run around on, you can't anymore. You just fall and fall and fall and fall. It's very, very cool. It's very well done. I am a Castlevania fangirl. This is the point in the podcast where I admit that every year in October, I watch several actual plays of the game because there's so many different ways to beat it.
Hell yeah.
And I can't play the game to save my life, but my god, do I love watching people beat it.
Beautiful.
Love that.
Listen, this is a pro nerd podcast. I don't know if y'all knew this. Dear listeners, if you somehow did not know this.
Breaking news. Get Clark Kent on the line.
Also, Violet, you have stumbled into one of my bullet points, which is no one pronounces the name of the country the exact same way.
They do not.
Yeah.
No one pronounces Wallachia the same way. It's sometimes
Wallachia.
Sometimes it's dependent on accent. Like, I do believe that, like, some of those actors just pronounce it with that accent because that's how that accent would pronounce that word. Other times it's just like,
I don't know.
that's just the name of the country. But it's very funny to me. And I love that we have accidentally stumbled into it.
Well, it's like in Star Wars where you have, Han Solo, and then Lando is like, my buddy Han stole my ship.
What the fuck? Also, I do need to go into a bit of a bugbear of mine. So obviously, like, pop culture will have you believe that Dracula was out and out inspired by the very real figure of Vlad Tepes, including this piece of media here.
Technically, by all accounts, that was never intentional, which is very funny.
So
I think it was a convenient name.
it was.
Remember, this is the same series that will eventually, Carmilla and whatever. I wouldn't be surprised if Godbrand is from somewhere. Like, everyone's names have quiet implications.
No, for sure.
They are not already in the game.
But that's the thing. It's not just Castlevania that ran with that idea. It's become kind of a myth
it's a cultural bugbear.
Yeah. And don't get me wrong, I enjoy it when people combine the mythos. It just annoys me that misinformation is the reason why.
Can I just get it out of the way?
Go for it.
Are you gonna
Belmonts.
complain about my loose toddler drunkard bastard who I love very dearly and will defend?
Are we starting the debate? Dear listeners, get your popcorn and your Team Belmont or Team Alucard flags.
Katie, the floor is yours.
Let me tell you a little something about my encounters with the Belmonts, okay? So, very first Castlevania game I played, Simon's Quest, not very well localized, kind of a bad translation, really bad controls. So our famed vampire hero would talk to villagers, get nonsensical answers to questions he didn't ask, and then get punked out and killed in one hit. So, that was Simon Belmont. Later on, there was back in the early 90s, there was a Nintendo cartoon. I think it was called was it the Game Master? Basically, it was a kid, and he played so much Nintendo that he got sucked into a Nintendo, and he met all the different characters except for Mario, because Mario had their own cartoon. And he was like, there was Kid Icarus was there, I know that. I don't think Kirby was.
Pit, my beloved.
Well, one of the characters that he ended up with was actually Simon Belmont, who was this egotistical, blowhard coward who would always go on about how cool he was with his whip, and then as soon as trouble reared its ugly head, he took off. Years later, I'm playing Castlevania Symphony of the Night, and like, oh wow, cool, this Richter Belmont guy just faced off against Dracula, and spoilers, we find out that the reason that he disappeared is because there was an evil priest, presumably of a cult, who, like, brainwashed Richter and turned him evil. And I'm like, you're a Belmont. you should know how to break mind control, but apparently you come from a line of blowhard, egotistical idiots. And so here comes Castlevania, and we're watching Trevor, and I'm like, yep, it runs deep in the family. All of these people are all talk, all smoke. None of them know what they're doing.
Now hang on.
That's why every 100 years or so, my boy has to wake up. He's just hanging out in his goth boy bedroom, dreaming goth boy dreams, listening to Joy Division and Molchat Doma, and he has to go up and he has to be the frickin' janitor for these guys who take all the credit.
No.
Yes.
Hang on.
I pulls Trevor closer. She doesn't mean it, Trevor. It's okay.
No, hang on, because I got a bugbear. Because Alucard and Trevor are two sides of the same depression coin.
Where's my popcorn?
No.
Yes, they are. Katie,
They are.
Katie, I will cite textual evidence. Sypha.
Do I need to drive up to you?
Sypha at one point says that Alucard's got this well, right? And you love wells. You love wells of sadness, Katie Duffy. I know this about you. You've never met a well of sadness masquerading as a teenage boy you haven't fallen in love with, or a man that you haven't fallen in love with.
In the second conversation I ever had with my husband, he referred to himself as a sad emo boy, and I was like, oh, a project.
You are not immune to the teenage girl instinct of looking at a boy and going, I can fix him. No, really, I can.
And you did. And Reader, you married him.
And Reader, you married him. So, Sypha at one point, to jump ahead a little, when they're in the Belmont Hold, Sypha points out that they're both kind of fucked up in the exact same way. Like, yes, Alucard got more of a childhood than Trevor ever did, which is, I think, not something we should gloss over. Trevor Belmont's whole entire family was excommunicated and then probably slaughtered at the age of 12. Imagine you at 12 years old. Imagine you're 12 years old and you've just been abandoned. You had tons of family. They told you at one point they were going to teach you how to do what you need to do to join the family legacy, to become part of something. And that opportunity was ripped away from you. All you had was childhood training. All you had was the understanding that the people you were sworn to protect do not want you. They don't want you so much that they're willing to slaughter your entire family about it. What are you supposed to do other than turn into a nihilistic drunk who just wants to get a few beers, sleep under a tree, and oh, by the way, toilets don't exist, so it's, the fucking 1100s. Nobody knows what's going on. Anyway.
1400s, but continue.
1400s. But the point still stands. You've still got to piss in pots.
Never mind the fact that indoor plumbing had existed for thousands of years thanks to India at this point, but you know how Europeans are, especially at this time.
And Alucard has the side effect of he was raised by a polymath and a doctor, but he was raised alone. He doesn't know how to socialize with other people because maybe Lisa had wanted to take him out into the world and introduce him to people, but he grew up biologically very quickly. Again, if Trevor is a loose toddler, then he's an angry teenage boy in an adult man's body. They're both repressed. They're repressed for the exact same reasons. That's the reason they quip and snipe at one another, because that's how they've realized they've come to show affection. The eat shit and die, yes, fuck you too, should be notified by the fact that it is followed immediately by the both of them laughing at the absurdity. It is about, I am handing you the Belmont Hold to protect. Make it your home. These boys are fucking in love. Everyone, you have to understand, this is God's perfect trio. They are so in love, it hurts. They are brains, brawn, and heart. They do not work separately. They were never meant to work separately, which is why season 3 is a goddamn nightmare, but we're not getting into it.
No, I like season 3, but we're not getting into it.
We're not getting into season 3. I don't have the right trigger warnings for it, but the point still stands. Trevor Belmont is an asshole, yes, but he sees an old man about to get beat in the street, and he just says,
I'm going to have to do the right thing here, aren't I?
And proceeds to beat the priests who are going to do it. Trevor Belmont is a good man. It's not going to stop him from occasionally being a dick about it.
Trevor Belmont is the personification of...
Okay, fine, but I'm gonna complain the whole time.
It's kindness versus niceness. He's not nice, but he is kind. I do agree with that.
Yes, he is an Eastern Seaboard, kind but not nice. And so Alucard is basically the same. He's snarking the same way Trevor is. He's repressing his emotions the same way. He just happens to have a pretty boy Bishonen package about it. And Trevor is a competent fighter. The town of Greshit does not survive if Trevor doesn't take charge. The assault on his castle does not work if Trevor doesn't go, all right, here's the goddamn fucking plan. Trevor knows how to fight, but he is chronically out of practice because there hasn't been a fucking monster in God knows how many decades, and also, he was 12. He hasn't had to fucking properly fight other than in bar fights since he was 12.
I've lost track of what the argument was.
Trevor Belmont is not useless. He's not dumb. He's also just up against a speaker magician who... Cypher Belmont is my absolute beloved darling of wives. And a fucking vampire who prematurely aged. He's like 16, probably. He just looks like he's 35.
Trevor's a little guy, okay?
They're all just little guys.
I would love to hear from Katie.
Yeah, it's your turn, Katie.
Is now the time where I present my fake doctoral thesis?
Go for it.
Adrian Fahrenheit Alucard Tepesh, embodiment of elder millennial sorrow.
Oh, let's go.
I'm seated.
Okay. So Alucard, as I mentioned before, grows up a child of privilege, has a certain view of the world. He is surrounded by what we would consider to be, yes, monsters. But these monsters are his friends, his caretakers. The vampire generals that we see who show up in the show, all of them very dangerous individuals, these are Dad's friends. They might show up every so often. Give him a little pat on the head.
I wouldn't know if I'd call them Dad's friends, but proceed.
And now he has to deal with the fact that his mother is dead, his father has gone mad, and the only way to stop him is by systematically, and at least initially in his mind, solo an entire castle full of former servants, former friends, former family. Elder millennials are looking at a world and remembering a childhood, which to them felt fairly stable. They were raised by people who, hopefully, imparted in them certain values, certain norms and mores that they presumed would carry through, would be something that they could live by forever. The world was a certain way, and so it would be forever. And they could always count on the people who raised them to be rational, sane, healthy individuals. And now, older millennials, in order to save the world, are faced with having to, at least symbolically, destroy everything they thought they held dear in order to save the world and bring about a new and possibly better one. I love Alucard. Alucard is anybody age 40 and up.
Which is wild given that he is at most 21, but he has a 40-something's world weariness.
I am so tired. And all I want to do is curl up in a big old coffin with Alucard. I mean, my husband, yes, also my husband, but, you know, like maybe if my husband put on those pants that Alucard wears when he comes out of the coffin.
Katie, we have to tell him you said that.
Maybe the wig?
Yes.
See, and now we enter the conundrum. If Alucard had the roadmap and he knew where he was going, and if he knew where to go, Trevor got handed the roadmap and then watched it catch fire in his hands and got told the ashes were still readable.
Okay,
that's the Gen Z experience.
No, actually, I'm going to counterpoint that with, that is the younger millennial experience, Jazz and I, because we grew up in the age of ever-changing technology. We grew up where everything around us was constantly changing.
We just barely remember pre-9/11 world. We still remember it, but very briefly.
Barely. But then 9/11 happened and everything changed. The map turned to ashes in our hands. Then the 08 recession happened as we were graduating high school and going into college. And then the ashes caught fire. And so we are cynical. We are angry. Some of us are drunks.
So in a way, all of us are Alucard in the sense that every few years, a bunch of insane people come in, wreck a bunch of shit, and then, try to destroy our futures.
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah.
We're all video game Alucard. It should also be mentioned, it's not implied that TV show Alucard actually got the Beasties as a kid. As a kid, it is implied it was just him, Lisa, and Dracula. Because this is a lore thing that doesn't get really all established in this first season, but is implied in secondary seasons. Humans are the only people who can be Forge Masters. That is their one reason. That is why it has to be Hector and it has to be Isaac, who we need to talk about because Hector and Isaac are incredible. But Forge Mastery is something only humans can do. It is why inevitably you find a human in a vampire's cohort if they're using night creatures. It gets established more as a detail in Nocturne, but in this season it is basically implied you need a human to be a Forge Master. So the Beasties were not something Alucard is familiar with. They're oh shit, Dad was serious about an army.
I do agree that the Forge Masters are important for building the army. It's also established in season 2 that the creatures and the demons and the beasties and everything were around, but not to the degree that is necessary for the army. That's why Dracula has to recruit Hector and Isaac, my beloved, one of my favorite characters in this show. Just saying a lot because it's a very well-written show.
Also, I love speaker magicians. I fucking love speaker magicians. They're so fascinating. I fucking love them.
The magic looks really... Like, the fight scenes in general look really cool.
Yeah.
Again, fight scenes, witty dialogue, and taking the piss out of the fucking church.
Which, granted, is mainly season 1. We've talked about boys enough. Let's talk about Scythe. She's fantastic.
Scythe Belnatis! See? God hates me.
Yeah.
She's an iconic star. She's like, oh, there's something that could possibly save these people from dire injury and pain and death and suffering. I'm gonna go fucking find it under threat of my own death.
Yeah, I really love Sypha. I did some reading before the recording because, again, I haven't played any Castlevania beyond the Vampire Survivors DLC, which is not the same. Sypha is from Castlevania 3, Dracula's Curse, which is also where Trevor comes from. She is originally a priestess in the game, so she is associated with the church, and it's a reveal at the end of the game that she has been a woman the entire time, kind of similar to Samus. And so, reading up on that is like, oh, there's a lot of really clever nods that the show is doing here. The fact that, Sypha is referred to without pronouns at first, and it's not until after Trevor is able to see her face and see who this person that he's rescued is that, oh, you're a woman, you're dressed as a boy for traveling. And there's also, I do really like that this show is distancing itself from a sort of like Catholic or Christian crusade against vampires. The first season, with its take on the more like Christian organized religion and making the church so vehemently the enemy for all of the characters that we do care about, is really interesting. And I do really like how the show incorporates speakers and this sort of oral history nomadic people as an alternative way of having Sypha be a magic user without having that church background.
Yeah. Fucking speaker magicians, man. They're so goddamn cool, and they're a reason that in, great to the 9th generations, you're gonna get a Belmont with fucking speaker magic. It's great. Anyway, I'm not here to talk about Richter. I want to talk about Richter, but I'm not talking about Richter.
But
we're talking about season 1 and 2.
Talking about seasons 1 and 2. I put this limitation on myself on purpose.
Yes, but with Sypha, it's just like I wanted to like her more because she's so me-coded in so many ways. But unfortunately, it really just felt like most of her screen time was just spent basically rolling her eyes and scolding the boys. And it's just like, we can do better for one of our few female heroes in the story. We could do better than, oh, you men.
That's fair.
That's her season 3 arc. Her end of season is I Want Adventures in the Great White Somewhere.
Yes. Well, yeah, that's why I'm saying she's me-coded, absolutely. But I feel like she does deserve better than basically babysitting Trevor Belmont her entire rest of her life.
She's not. So season 3...
I actually don't think it's right to discuss season 3 on this podcast, given the fact that that is not part of the context. Yes,
but it is a soft-hearted, like, if you take season 1 as basically one long pilot, which essentially is, And season 2 is essentially true to form season 1. This show went so long between production, because one of the things we also have to talk about is there's a year between the premiere of season 1 and the premiere of season 2.
Yeah.
And then there's another 3 years between season 2 and season 3. I get the sense that they were never really certain if they were going to get a season 3 until practically the last minute. And then when they got season 3, they said, okay, what have we learned from seasons 1 and 2 and what can we improve upon? And that was how they went forward that way. And so, yes, there is some element of you could, look at Sypha basically having to babysit these 2 boys who are emotionally stunted. But she's also incredibly useful. Again, God's perfect trio. She is their brain. She is their unifier. These 2, Trevor and Alucard, don't work without Sypha. Trevor and Sypha don't work without Alucard. And Alucard and Sypha don't work without Trevor.
But
they are a unit. They are brought together, do not separate.
I get that to a degree, but again, I think I'm just tired of the token female in these kinds of trios basically having to play mommy.
Yeah, Sypha's doing a lot of emotional labor here.
Yeah.
When she gets to go off, and particularly in later season 2, we start seeing her use speaker magic more and more. Mm-hmm. She does really get to be a badass. But yeah, I absolutely agree with you, Jazz, that Sypha's arc in season 1 and season 2 is less satisfying in comparison to what's going on with Trevor and Alucard.
Exactly.
Shout out to some of my favorite lines so far that I've noted down is reflexes like a cat, drops through another hole in the ground. They're not afraid of making Trevor look like a dumbass, and I appreciate
very
that.
much not.
The keep walking, waits for a couple of beats, deep sigh, prepares to go beat up some priests. The whole fucking, they don't know what they do. Don't fucking kill them.
Yeah.
The classic, God shits in my dinner once again. This is what I mean when I talk about the Castlevania dialogue, is that it is so very... There are moments where there's this deep philosophical, Sypha has the great speech about, I try to, bicker with him and he's a cold spot in the room. I don't feel like I get anything. You, I know I can poke at and get a reaction. You're still there, but I don't know if he is. And this is, followed up, this is preceded by, there was an Enochian word. You do not understand that word means death. It's a death magic door. We were not black magic users. It's very much these 3 are bickering, but it's all in this, vaguely poetic sense, and then also just occasionally an F-bomb. It's a very funny conundrum of adult animation writing.
It is very Warren Ellis dialogue.
Yeah.
If I had not known that he wrote it, I would have been like, wow, this sounds like a Warren Ellis, comic or something. Because if you read his comics, he's very good at that. He can be very poetic and very philosophical, but he's not afraid to have a character go, what the fuck was that?
This does get carried over into Nocturne. I was gonna give a poetic speech, but nah. And then blowing a guy's head off with unlocked speaker magic.
Yeah, that's pretty great.
They changed writers due to allegations that came out against Warren Ellis that he had been involved in sexual coercion and manipulation against, I think ultimately 100 or over 100 people did come forward. And personally speaking, if you have the capacity for reading up on it, I would encourage you to go to somanyofus.com, which is documenting many of the people that came out speaking up against Warren Ellis, their accounts. It is a tough read. It is a worthwhile read. And it's something where the last statement from them was that Warren Ellis had not done the work that they had requested of him and that he had indicated that he was receptive to. On January 19th, 2023, they had posted a update after first printing it in June 2020. What they had requested was that Warren Ellis acknowledge his behavior in its entirety, acknowledge his pattern of harmful conduct, acknowledge that he has callously hurt people, and contribute to transformative work to dismantle the systems which allowed this to go on. Per the website, we saw valuable progress in all 3 of our intentions, but to the best of our knowledge, Warren Ellis took none of the steps we hoped he would. So it's something where everyone has different responses to art and different responses to work that has been made by people that have done bad things. Like, I think you yourself had said, Jazz, that like this is a different journey that everyone goes on.
Yeah.
Personally speaking, I do still really like Castlevania. It is a show that I enjoy, and Warren Ellis is a writer whose work I continue to enjoy and continue to keep on my bookshelf. But it is very disappointing to me that he has not done the work that his victims would have requested. And maybe that's changed in the last 2 years, but given the fact that there hasn't been anything publicly said, probably not.
Yeah, that's pretty damning. And yeah, I think it is important to grapple with that sort of thing because unfortunately it just keeps happening where we keep on running into works of art and media that mean a lot to us, but is made by somebody who sucks. And even if somehow you are listening to this podcast and you're one of those people who's just like, it's only alleged, I'm sorry, but 100 allegations? You can't ignore that. I highly doubt 100 people are lying.
Yeah, and it's something where I think that's part of the reason why this show ended with season 4. From what I remember, so Warren Ellis wrote the entire show Castlevania season 1 through season 4. He was taken off the show after the allegations came forward, so he was not involved in it during season 4 despite having written it. And I suspect part of the reason why they canceled it and then did Castlevania Nocturne was so that way they could just spin it off and then leave the baggage, as it were, behind them, but continue their successful franchise.
Yeah. It's basically become Sam and Adam Beats, who are the directors for a lot of seasons 1 and 2. It's basically become their sort of child, or at least Nocturne is very much, their child. Like, if you see people talking about Castlevania online, they very much are adding Sam or Adam on Twitter or on Blue Sky because I think I follow Sam on Blue Sky. He's also kind of an okay follow. He basically just posts doodles he's done more of Castlevania style or in Nocturne style of like random characters or his dog, which, I'll need another dog in our life. But the reason I brought up the fact that like they did switch writers for Nocturne and Nocturne still keeps that dialogue is the idea that like, yes, this is a stylistic trait of Ellis, but it is not, it's not unreplicable. The same way I feel reading the One Girl trilogy from Ken Dare Blake, which is basically a Buffy sequel series about Willow's daughter becoming, a witch slayer. And all of that has streaks of Whedonism and the idea that, like, we don't need Whedon to write Whedonisms or Wobbin. Other writers have since come up and can do it just as well. So if you are someone who feels the need to abandon but still wants that, it is not something we are completely and utterly losing, which is not, like, a big thing on the grand scheme of things, but it's just something that pops up whenever we come about it. And the last section of season 1 dialogue I want to talk about is the blue-eyed demons. God is not here. This is an empty box.
Yeah, that scene whips.
That was amazing. I lost it.
Yeah.
There's a reason the blue-eyed demon is a fan favorite.
Understandable, have a nice day.
Your life's work makes him puke and lies in your house of God. Shout out to whatever voice actor is doing that specific demon because it's so good.
Oh, who is doing
I
it?
cried at that scene.
I bet.
That hit hard. I was like, oh, we're going okay.
Yeah, no, it's evil Catholics instead of evil Baptists, but still.
That's the thing I mean when I say that, like, made the caveat at the beginning that the Castlevania is not interested in just taking the piss out of religion. It's taking the piss out of people who would use religion as a weapon for power. Again, there are ways to do religion more or less ethically, but, a lot of times for a lot of people, religion is a weapon. It is something that you wield against other people, and Castlevania recognizes that, as much as holy water will defeat a vampire, you gotta make sure the priest doing it is square with the god above.
Honestly, though, you don't have to, as we see in season 2. But going back to it, Blue Fangs, or the Blue-Eyed Demon, is voiced by Fred Tatasciore, or Tatasciore. He's currently also the voice for Yosemite Sam, and voices a couple of characters in Castlevania Nocturne. So my dude's been around, my dude knows what he's doing, and it comes through in that performance.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we love all the VAs on this show. Richard Armitage as Trevor, James Callis as Alucard. Graham McTavish genuinely floors me as Dracula.
Yeah.
He's so fucking good. You would not know that man is heavily fucking Scottish.
He's so good.
He's also a cast member in Outlander, which is how I know him best. And Alejandra Reynoso, I believe is how you pronounce her last name, as Sypha. Also, Theo James. Hello, Theo James. You are another one of those actors who got burned for me because you were in those stupid fucking Divergent movies, but you're real goddamn good as Hector. You're also real damn good as Bastion in X-Men 97, but we're not here to talk about X-Men 97.
Speaking of Hector, shall we get into the second season?
Let's talk Hector and Isaac. I fucking love those two.
Yeah.
I wish they got more seasons together after season 2. But so much of season 2 is basically, all right, we've established that there are humans in this mix. What would put a human into this army and this line of work? What would drive a human to want to eradicate the human race?
At least partially.
And Hector and Isaac both have pretty compelling reasons.
Yes. And also, Dracula and Isaac, it definitely reaches so devoted the lines blur. I am Team Drysic.
Yeah.
Dracula, you should have just run off with Isaac and maybe you would have felt better.
God, speaking of Drysic, there's a moment in episode 7 when, we have the assault on the castle, which fucking love how hard episode 7 goes after, our trio spending the majority of the show in a library. Mm-hmm. Episode 7 is just all the action and the Castlevania music cues you have been waiting for. But there's the moment where Isaac and Alucard see one another. And Isaac's reaction makes sense. He's like, oh, fuck, your son's here. Alucard is here. That's a problem because he's very strong. Alucard gives Isaac an expression that I can only describe as, are you fucking my dad, Isaac?
I didn't think of that, but you're not wrong.
Well, but they don't have any history together. Dracula met these dudes while he was traveling the world. It's not like Isaac and Hector were at the castle while Alucard was living there, but it's just so good. I love Dracula and Isaac's relationship. As you said, the devotion is really good, and Isaac is a character that I really love in this show.
Rip to Hector, your week is only going to get worse. Oh, I'm so sorry, Hector. Everything is about to happen to you.
He makes Frankenpets, basically. I love him.
Hold on to that feeling. Everything is about to happen to that poor boy. He is so easily manipulated. His shit is going to spend the next 2 seasons getting rocked.
Oh, great.
He's gonna meet a character. I love that. I'm like, damn, one of the main flaws of season 2 is that this character is not present, and I have to wait until season 3 for them.
Oh, no.
Yeah, I had to remember if the sisters were ever mentioned in season 2, and they're not.
Yeah.
But I will talk about that off mic.
So Carmilla's sisters, huh? How Carmilla has sisters? Not one.
Well, 2 of them are married. 2 of them are married to each other.
Season 3. But speaking of Carmilla, how do folks feel about this character, Carmilla? She doesn't have a basis in the video game. She was created for the anime.
She works as a secondary antagonist.
And I just like the fact that one of the first things she's said in dialogue, besides calling Dracula out for wasting everybody's time with this war, was implying that Carmilla would ever sleep with a man. Hey, friend of the show, Countess Carmilla von Karnstein, how do you feel about this?
Oh, for God's sake. I have approximately one thing that some other upstart hasn't stolen from me, and they can't even let me have that. I'm going to have to start wearing Labras to get it through people's skulls. Or maybe I'll just put an axe through their skulls. It might be faster.
Tempting to actually let you have that one. But, at least they didn't pair you up with Drac like that one Batman movie?
They didn't what?
Oh, you didn't know. Shall I pencil you in for that episode? But no, that's actually how I first heard your name. Not only was she Dracula's dead wife, Vicky Vale was her reincarnation. They were doing one of those.
Vicky Vale? No. I want nothing to do with that pathetic vampire wannabe. He's 2 alive parents away from being just Elon Musk with better taste in suits. He said it won't even let him go downtown. What use do I have for him? No. I'll take the redhead. She looks like she knows how to treat a woman.
Now, if only the editors would let her get married.
She's Carmilla in name only.
Yeah, but I don't think that's okay, and I'll tell you why. We have historically lacked proper Carmilla representation. Because of course we have, because we'd have to deal with the lesbianism if we did.
So, I haven't read a ton of Warren Ellis's stuff, but he, and maybe I'm remembering this wrong, but he seems to like kind of have a thing for, he can write women characters very well, but like he has a thing for writing women with ambition as being like a little touched, I guess you can say.
That is true, and I don't like that either.
Yeah.
But given his behavior in the real world, it actually makes perfect sense.
But he's also, again, talking about the motivations of everyone involved. He has grounded her motivations very well.
Yes.
The idea of the vamp who turned me turned out to also be a mad old man who almost got me killed. So the only response I had was to kill him first. I'm not going to put up with that ever fucking again.
So that part I did actually kind of like.
Carmilla T. Castlevania is a character for me where I have to accept her on the terms that she is being presented to me, which is we need a vampire that can stand up against Dracula, who is the most famous literary vampire. So the only real comparison, the only real counterpoint that Dracula has is his, Victorian literature contemporary Carmilla. So I get why we are using the name. I don't think of this show as a Carmilla adaptation whatsoever because she is just Carmilla in name only. That said, I do really like the character and how she disrupts and seeds manipulation into Dracula's court. She's a very fun character to follow in the show.
Yeah, it is definitely a fun dynamic there.
And I also think she serves a very important purpose in the she gets to be the one to lose it about the fact that there may potentially be another Belmont on the field. She's like, oh, these bastards are supposed to be dead. And the mere idea, again, this is proof that it's not just Trevor blowing smoke. The mere idea, the rumor, yeah, Dracula's son is on the field. Whatever. He might have a speak magician. Sure. There's a Belmont in play? Oh,
we're all
fuck.
fucked.
We should be worried. We should not just let this slide. We cannot let him get back to the tools of his trade. This is enough for Carmilla to be like, okay, new plan. Sure, we can go and continue this war and crusade. I'm sending a side squad to go deal with that fucking Belmont. But that is a very good move from a narrative standpoint of the idea of like, yes, everyone in this trio is a problem.
I was going to say, because it's interesting that, and you're right, Carmilla's like, we need to go take care of this. But at the same time, you also have, it's a kind of goofy character, Godbrand. He's a Viking vampire. And he points out, quite rightly, that Alucard is also a big problem because I believe he says he's almost as strong as Dracula himself. So implying like, this guy could solo any one of us, or possibly all of us. And we kind of probably need to address that sooner rather than later because, Trevor is a Belmont. He can get to the family hold. He can get all the information about the castle and about, how to take out this, that, or the other. But Alucard has lived there. He will know if there are secret entrances. He will know, how to get around quietly if he needs to. I don't know. I just find it very interesting that, like, Carmilla is way more concerned about the Belmont, less concerned about the fact that, like, basically the heir to Dracula's empire is on his way and is presumably pretty pissed off.
It's the more argument to the God's perfect trio. If you're not concerned about one, you're concerned about the other.
I don't think anyone's arguing against the trio.
Kind of, it's giving a very supernatural vibe in that when Crowley goes, am I the only person who understands these denim-wrapped nightmares?
I mean, the Belmonts are not Winchester descendants as well.
Or rather, the Winchesters are the descendants. It would not surprise me at all if there was fanfic.
Yeah, and so this show is so fucking well crafted, man. Like, this show, one of the things I really appreciated watching this show after watching Once Upon a Fucking Time is that every episode's like 25 minutes. 27, 28 for the two finale episodes. But this show does such a good job at bouncing between what information we need to know at any given point in time, which is why I think that the first episode being structured as basically one really long pilot episode, getting everyone set up and getting all of the things you need to know out of the way, basically. Dracula's going to war for his wife. this guy maybe could probably stop him. This girl knows the information, and this guy's Dracula's kid, and they're all gonna team up to go fight Dracula because a prophecy fucking said so. We're off to the fucking races.
It's a proof of concept. The glow up between season 1 and season 2 animation-wise is incredible. Season 1 is so ugly in comparison.
Yes, not everyone's gotten their character models straightened out yet.
Yeah.
And that glow up just continues as the show goes on. But then season 2, you spend an entire episode with Dracula's court, learning everybody and learning the intricacies and learning whose alliances are where. You spend an episode in the Belmont Hold doing character building and, finding out what information they need to narrow in on. You spend another episode in flashbacks and more episodes in the castle. And it basically just sort of bounces so that by the end of it, where everything's coming to fruition, you understand intricately who, what, when, where, and why. And
I think what impressed me the most was that season 2, was that episode 7 was not the finale with the big battle.
Yeah.
But they were able to make another episode out of the aftermath, and it didn't feel unnecessary. It didn't feel sluggish or sluggish.
Yeah, season 8 is basically a giant season 3 teaser trailer.
I would disagree. I feel like episode 8 is a good way of being like, here's where all the characters are at post the death of Dracula, which is typically your end state in a Castlevania. Katie, fact check me here. Is that your end state in a Castlevania?
It kind of is, yeah. And of course, I've only ever really... Oh, I haven't even played it. I just watched people play it.
And that's valid.
But at the end of Symphony of the Night, actually there are multiple endings depending on... Okay, so again, spoilers. At one point in the game, Maria Renard tells Alucard, like, yeah, I think something's up with Richter. Like, I don't think he's evil. I think something else is going on. So I'm going to give you these special glasses that dispel illusions. If you don't put those glasses on, your end boss is Richter. And you murder him. And then at the end, Maria's like, what happened to Richter? And Alucard's like, sorry, he was so far gone. I had to do what I had to do. And she's like, oh, that's terrible. And he's like, yeah, see ya. And he goes back to his coffin. If you put on the glasses, you would go to fight Richter, but you actually see something else as like this orb. And the object is actually to destroy that orb, because that orb is like the magic spell that is controlling Richter. You destroy the orb. The Dark Priest, whose name is, and I can't believe I'm saying this, it's the Dark Priest Shaft. I don't know why. I don't know why they gave him that name. It's
damn right.
Yeah. But if you destroy the orb, Richter comes back to his senses. The priest gets super pissed off, so you have to fight him. Richter then leaves with Maria so that Alucard can take care of business. And in that ending, Richter, you see the ruins of the castle in the background. And Richter basically says, hey, thanks for saving my ass. I'm really sorry you had to kill your dad. That must have been really rough. And Alucard's like, yeah, I mean, it was. My mom's dead. And I had to kill my dad. So I think I might be cursed. I think my bloodline actually, you know what? I'm just going to go. Nobody needs me around anymore. So I'm just going to leave. He leaves. Maria Renard is like, Alucard. And Richter's like, do you want to go to him? And she's like, oh, he's so sad.
Oh, so how I felt after episode 8. Okay.
Damn girl, get in line.
Oh, God, I have so many thoughts. So episode 8 is kind of a very drawn-out Castlevania ending where everybody's, plot lines are resolved. All the threads are tied up, all the loose ends. But what I found very interesting about episode 8 was that it didn't, at least, this is before they knew they were going to get an additional season. So I found it very interesting. So at the very end, Dracula has been defeated. After one heck of a fight between him and Dracula.
Killing our boy, Lisa.
Oh my gosh.
I cry every time.
One part, trio style beat 'em up. Again, throwing a haymaker at Dracula, you must be the Belmont. And then what I could only describe as a pinball fight of super strength throughout the castle, as Dracula and Alucard just throw each other through walls until they end up in Alucard's childhood bedroom. And I'm killing our boy, Lisa. The one thing you gave me, and I'm killing him. I must already be dead.
Not the one thing you gave me, the greatest gift you gave me.
The greatest gift you gave me, yes.
Yeah.
We were talking about elder millennial angst. Mm-hmm. So some of us are very fortunate to have pretty good relationships with our parents. Not all of us do. And I want to acknowledge that. I do. Fortunately. But there are millennials out whose parents are passing. The guy who actually introduced me to Castlevania, I found out several months ago that his father had passed. And so, yeah, that whole scene, father and son, like, are knockdown, drag-out fight. They are trying to kill each other. And then Alucard does the deed because he has to, because that is the only way to save the world. His friends are fine. They get in a wagon. They're going to go off and have adventures and some fun interpersonal intramurals, presumably, while Alucard is left alone in a giant castle that is completely empty of everything but memories of what was and what could have been. And then only after, he has done this thing, this good thing to save the world, the only thing he can do is be alone in his grief.
Yeah.
Yeah, sometimes when you are an elder millennial trying very hard to save the world, sometimes all you can do is sit alone in your house with your grief of what could have been.
It's such a gut punch of an episode ending and a season ending.
So we see Alucard sitting in his father's chair in his father's study. He is weeping, and the voice actor there, because it's not like big heaving wailing sobs. It's very quiet and very private. And it sounds strange to say that I'm struck by that every time, because it's not a piece of dialogue. It's not, a big bombastic speech. It's not, Neil Newbon as Astarion, speaking of another vampire, having this big emotive wail at the arc of his story. It's very subdued, and that makes it extremely realistic.
Yeah, it's such a gut punch way of ending your season and potentially your show.
Classic case of we won, but at what cost?
Yeah.
Before I knew that there was going to be a third season, I was so mad. The first time I saw that, I was enraged that was where they were going to be leaving the season.
Hey, anyone want to help me find the castle? Maybe bring him a nice blanket and some cocoa?
Yeah.
He's mine. Yeah. Lay off, he's mine.
He, as I said, Alucard is somehow simultaneously my son and also my wife. It makes sense, I assure you.
No, understandable. Have a nice day.
Like, my love for Alucard, first of all, fat titties. Second of all, he's a character, he's a tragic figure. He's so beautiful, again, as depicted in Symphony of the Night, Ayami Kojima.
Sad, wet vampires.
If you look up his original art from when he was introduced in Castlevania 3, he does not look the same. He really had a glow up. But there's something about Alucard. He doesn't show up in a lot of Castlevania games. It almost feels like Konami doesn't understand what a slam dunk character that they have here. And one of the things that really struck me on this rewatch of the show is that Castlevania as a TV show is less concerned with redepicting the plot line of these games or sticking with the Belmont narrative. It is more interested in exploring this world and exploring what character dynamics can exist within this world without it needing to be a video game. So it's a really interesting adaptation to me because of that, because you would think that you would lean into more action all the time. You would only follow Trevor or whomever your Belmont of the series would be. It's a really good show. Alucard, if you're out there, I am free on Thursday night.
I am quietly asking the God's Perfect Trio if they need a fourth or a fifth, depending on if you want to count Greta from season 4, but say la vie. Okay, I have a lot of thoughts about the ending, but I do want to quietly rewind real quick because I do want to continue talking about Hector and Isaac for one quick second.
Yes.
Isaac's murder of Godbrand. I literally wrote in my notes, I forget who gets to kill Godbrand, because I remember he dies. And I'm like, I forget who gets to kill him. Is it Drac or Carmilla? And then Isaac pulled out the knife, and I was like, right, it is Isaac.
There's a lot going on in this show. Honestly, maybe a little too much.
But it doesn't feel like too much until you're trying to go back and remember everything that happens. In the moment, you're just like on a roller coaster and going, fuck yeah, let's go!
Yeah, I am actually curious, we haven't talked about, hey, what do people think of Castlevania Season 1 and 2? Is this a piece of media and art that you enjoy? What is your experience with it?
Yes, the focus group questions.
With this marathon I did, I was like, you're good. I'm waiting for you to be great. Because there's a lot of really good and compelling pieces here, but I can't say I love it as a whole. I can see myself liking it casually, basically, which is rare for me.
This is not your piece of delicious cake.
Yeah, no, because there's objectively, it's an amazing show, but like other than a few key elements, it does not have my heart yet.
As somebody who owns at least one God's Perfect Trio print and just bought a Trevor keychain at the con I was at.
So you like it a normal amount?
I totally like it a normal amount. I have no idea what you're talking about.
So, for me, I think I really enjoy it, but it's like 75% of the way there to being a kind of obsession. Like, I really enjoy it, and I probably will continue season 3 and 4 at some point when I finish other media that is taking priority that is not relevant at this time and place. It does not involve vampires technically.
Hannibal, they're watching Hannibal.
Okay, you didn't I didn't say it. I wasn't gonna say it. So anyway, it's like I will probably finish it at some point, but it's not oh my god, I need to finish this tonight. I need to watch every episode tonight.
And that's fair. Like, for me, it is a show that, again, I haven't seen season 4. I haven't picked up Nocturne. It's a show that I really love when I am thinking about it and when I'm watching it. And I pretty much every time that I have watched it, it's been single night viewing of the season because it all just ties in really well together. But like, it is a show that like definitely forget about when I am not actively thinking about it.
For me, this show it's kind of an odd kind of mix of nostalgia trip and also just kind of fiction fodder. And when I say that, I mean, obviously, for me, like I've talked about repeatedly in the episode, it harkens back. It reminds me there are little Easter eggs throughout. If you are a Symphony of the Night fan, when the group first gets together, I forget which episode it is. It's earlier on, but in season 2. But they're out in the woods. They're in a wagon. They get attacked by night creatures. And one of those night creatures, it's kind of a bull, I guess you could describe it almost like Minotaur-like. And then there's a creature with a spear that has a long neck and like a bird-like beak. And they fly around together. And that's actually the first boss that you fight in Symphony of the Night. So there are lots of moments of me pointing at the screen and going, I know that one. I know that one.
Katie's out here pointing like Leonardo DiCaprio.
The fight at the end of episode 7 with all 3 of them, I have to admit the first time I saw it, I actually got a little bit teary. And the reason is that I've always loved video games. I've always been interested in video games. But growing up, my mom was always a little bit like, why do you like this so much? Video games are for boys. And so it was kind of seen as like, why are you wasting your time with this when you could be doing literally anything else? But for me, especially because it had those role-playing elements, it gave my brain something to kind of chew on, this evolving story. And it wasn't like a book. You couldn't just like flip to the end to see what happened to the characters. You had to play it to understand what was happening. And I did eventually end up getting my own copy of Final Fantasy VII, but I couldn't do that with Castlevania. It was one of those things where it's like, part of it was that I had a younger brother that I'm like, okay, I can kind of get away with playing Final Fantasy VII in front of him, but some of the enemies in Symphony of the Night are very creepy. They are kind of like, wow, you're getting away with this in a game for ostensibly children? Okay, Japan. So I knew better than to ask for it, and also just the uncomfortable conversation I would have to have with my mom because there's a lot of occult symbolism in that game. But long story short, the series kind of allowed me to do what I had been doing since I was younger, which is like imagining these worlds and these songs and these characters as far more than just polygons on a screen. Same reason why I kind of tear up when I hear music from Final Fantasy VII performed by an orchestra. It's because it's what I always envisioned in my mind, but was never really able to articulate to anybody because it was just something that was not like on my parents' radar, for example, or a lot of my friends didn't understand like why I was so into this. And so the fight scene at the end of episode 7, Alucard has already done a couple things that are from the game, like he can kind of teleport a little bit, limited teleportation. But the scene where he runs forward and then jumps over a wall of fire turns into a wolf and uses his sword telepathically. That is all stuff that you could do in Symphony of the Night. In that game, you have a bunch of different familiars you can get, and one of them is a sword, and the sword will actually fight with you even when you're in wolf form. So watching that and hearing that incredible orchestration of Bloody Tears, which is a song that is continued through the Castlevania franchise, including Symphony of the Night, which, by the way, has probably one of the best video game soundtracks from the 90s/early 2000s. I actually own it. I play it at Halloween when I'm handing out candy. It's just that good. But yeah, for me, I have some problems with the series. Most of that is due to Warren Ellis kind of being very deeply cynical. That's just a problem that I kind of have with his work in general. I'm not a huge fan of some of his writing choices and some of his overall kind of oeuvre when it comes to like human nature. I just find it a little bit too dark and a little bit too nihilistic and cynical. But there are times in that series where, once again, I am 16 years old and I am going, I didn't know that video games could do this. I love this series. I hate it, but I also love it.
Yeah.
And that's love, baby.
Yeah.
And one of the other like interesting things, again, this is sort of a encapsulation of this series, is that like you can go into this series without anything about fucking games. You can know that the games exist, but you do not need to know every single little kernel about them to watch this and make it make sense.
Yeah, I think the show is really successful at having all of those nods and allusions to the video games, particularly the ones it is drawing on, but also just Castlevania in general, but making that accessible for a more casual viewer. Like, everything works, and you don't get the sense that the show is holding for applause or holding for you to be like, oh, I recognize that thing. They're doing the thing. Like, everything is in service of the story, which is always really admirable to see in an adaptation like this.
Yeah, like, I can recognize that the fight falling down into the Belmont Hold is very clearly some sort of illusion or some sort of, like, you know, how you would fight it on a platformer, sort of stylistically. I can understand that all of Trevor's weapons mean something. I can understand that the painting on the wall of, I think it's supposed to be either Leon or Simon before everything comes crashing down. I can understand that that's an important thing to see, even if I don't have any fucking clue which Belmont it is. There are so fucking many of them, and the branches keep getting pruned. You'd think there'd be less of them, but no, they're like cockroaches. They always sprout up. But yeah, and then like there's also like the design of the castle, which is so fucking weird and so fucking pretty. Fucking love the castle. I fucking love Sypha breaking it by basically magicking it on top of them.
That whole sequence is so sick.
Mm-hmm. It's so funny. I love Sypha just being like, get over here. And Hector and Carmilla's response of, what the fuck was that about? The blessing of the water coming back to bite all of them in the ass.
Yeah. Oh, and I love the continued, in season 2, we see the corpse of the bishop that was responsible for Lisa's death. We see that he is in the castle, and then he's one of the corpses that becomes one of Hector's forged monsters, and then because he was a priest in life, he's capable of blessing the water, which is used... Yeah, which is so sick. And then because he was a priest in life, he's capable of blessing the water, which is so sick and really speaks to the fact that, you know, his own affinity to God was already twisted enough. His ability to draw on his religion in this way was twisted enough that him being a monster like this didn't prevent him from being able to draw on that previous affinity. It's just really cool. And then also so funny to see it used across all of the vampires in the city.
I also love that they try to play fast and loose about the running water being a weakness to vampires, because it's one of those things that like is occasionally there, but is also one of those things that's fallen out of favor. So they're all kind of like, we don't know, but we're not gonna test it. So the petty squabbling about what counts as running water, top tier funny joke.
I think for me, what I found interesting was that, like, I knew nothing. I walked in blind. I knew nothing. I knew there were sad boys. That was the extent of my knowledge. There are sad boys here. And apparently I'm gonna like the sad boys. One of them at least. We didn't know which one. Spoiler alert, it was the drunk one. Because he is me and I am him. It's fine. Don't worry about it. I have a shelf of emotional support white men, and he has joined the ranks.
Nick, you do not drink.
I use caffeine. It's fine. Don't worry about it. It's fine.
Instead of here there be dragons, here there be sad white boys.
Yes.
So anyway.
Give one of the sad white boys a dragon. Maybe you'll feel better.
Anyway, so I like that I could go in with zero knowledge of anything about this. And I didn't feel lost. I didn't feel left out. I didn't feel confused. I had a good time. I was like, okay, I know nothing, but this all makes sense. You know, and if there was an in bit or a gag, like, it didn't feel like something I needed to know. It didn't feel like something I was missing out on by not being in on the video game. Like, if they did, it was subtle enough that you're like, oh, yeah, okay. You know, it just went over my head, but the people who were fans of the game would catch it. And it would be a cool Easter egg for people later to know.
Everyone's fucking long-ass cloaks that are so impractical that I'm kind of obsessed with. And
it's a Dracula story. Of course there's going to be impractical cloaks.
Yes.
Yeah.
Episode 5, where we do finally get a what was Dracula at his worst. Because I feel like that was... Yes. But I do feel like that was something we needed because, again, everyone's petrified of him and we've heard, like, rumors and we, the audience, through cultural osmosis, know how bad Dracula can be. But this is also a Dracula who has fallen in love and sired a child. How has that, you know, that softens a Dracula. We talked about in Reluctant Immortals how Dracula has been sort of softened through the ages because he can be a lover and he's lost some of that, like, initial terror that came from Stoker's book. So I do love the inclusion of here's how bad he was before he decided that he was over that.
Wish we had seen more of Alucard's childhood, to be honest. I think that would have really made him having to kill his father hit even harder. I mean, it hit hard, which is really a credit to this show, that we had seen so little of them together. The first time we see them together is when he's killing him, and we still felt that emotional weight, but God, I wish we saw more.
Yeah.
Allegedly, there is concept art of baby Alucard. He's just a little guy. But yeah, I do love the inclusion of the terror. We needed a vicious Dracula to, like, really, really hit home.
No, 100%.
How bad could... This evil depression Dracula is not as bad... Who's declaring genocide against humanity is not actually as bad as he can get. Fun fact, he used to be way worse.
He can get so much worse. Call 1-800-FUCK-YOU and we'll throw in a even more genocidal Dracula for just 3 payments of $19.99.
Call 1-800-FUCK-ME Dracula if you're free on Wednesday night. I am free on Wednesday night.
Buy now and we'll include a Carmilla for your lesbian friends.
I think you'd have to talk to Lisa Tepesh about that.
Lisa Tepesh, if you are free on Wednesday night, I am free on Wednesday night to be a third for you and your husband.
I have to admit to something.
Yes.
You know, we've been talking about Dracula and his allure. And during the course of watching this series, imagine, dear listener, my husband, a very pale man with black hair.
Oh, no.
How long's that hair? How tall is he?
You are not allowed to... Oh, God, you are not allowed to use counter-violent.
No, that's not my intention. I wanted to know how Dracula-esque he is, Katie. I'm not trying to... Hi, Katie. I'm so happy to meet you. I'm not trying to steal your husband 2 hours into knowing you. I have a girlfriend.
Listen, that was River started it. I want to make it clear River started it.
That's the outtake special immediately.
Moving on.
God, I just real quick before we wrap up. Speaking of Dracula and lawn capes, I love that Dracula is so fucking tall. There's something about his boots in this that make his proportions feel so off. Like
he's like 8 or 9 feet tall in this. I swear. Like you see him next to other characters, and you see him next to Hector, Isaac, Alucard, and you're assuming that these people, you know, probably, you know, average male height anywhere between 5'9" and 6'1", we'll say. And Dracula towers over them. He's like, seriously, at least like 7.5 feet tall. And that's bare minimum.
Which I love.
My favorite is him next to Sypha.
Listen, He's prepared for his inevitable future as an NBA player. You know, he's going to be in the NBA and it's going to be fine. Don't worry about it.
Okay, so what you're saying is after the werewolf basketball movie and leprechaun basketball movie, now we're going to get a vampire basketball movie. Got it. Ain't no rule that says that Dracula can't play basketball.
And I love how tall he is. He's going to be so good at surfing. But my quibble is that there's something about his boots with the boot tops. He is wearing boots that are the same height as the other boots on the much shorter men in the show. So because the boots are hitting him at the same height, it feels like his proportions are off in a really weird way that I find distracting. I would have loved to see Castlevania Dracula in like knee-high or even thigh-high boots, like just continue the lines through.
I would say, yeah, that is a very funny image, but also he is so wrapped up in his cloak 100% of the time. He's just like those Batman doodles that people do, where Batman is just like the ears and the eyes and a formless blob of black.
Yeah, and then his boots stick out, and I'm like, God, it's so distracting.
See, you're saying this, and all I can think of is you're kind of straying into Frankenfurter territory, I think.
Frankenfurter can be a Dracula.
He's going to make you shiver with anticipation.
I mean, he's already a Dr. Frankenstein, so fuck it, why not? That's a monster mash. And I think you can guess what his idea of a graveyard smash is.
I love the heartbeat detail in Killing Dracula. You hear the heartbeat as the snake goes through, and it's until the heartbeat runs out.
And I cry.
And we cry.
And we cry like babies.
But of course, that's never going to be a permanent death. Dracula always comes back one way or the other. So with that in mind, why does Dracula and why does Castlevania endure?
Big old titties.
Alucard's fat titties. No, a serious answer. Go ahead, Katie. Do your serious answer.
I think that Dracula endures because there's always something that is terrifying but very alluring about the night. Nighttime is very beautiful. It can be very beautiful if there's a full moon and the sky is clear, you can see everything. It can also be terrifying. I say that as somebody who lives kind of in an ex-urban area and has been to pick up my now husband when he lived in Toronto, has been to Cleveland at 3 or 4 a.m. and has driven on roads with no street lights and full cloud cover in the middle of winter with no lights whatsoever. And the all-enveloping darkness, even further afield, and I have driven at night in Amish country. By day, it's beautiful fields. At night, it is terrifying. But there is something dark and powerful about the night, and I think that humans will always crave stories about what exists out there, and will always look for stories that are cautionary but also exciting when it comes to things that go bump in the night. As far as Castlevania, who among us does not want to be a big damn hero and kill a legendary monster, an unambiguously evil one? Who among us has not wanted to get the catharsis that comes from killing a troubling parent? No, I did not say
I was going to say, sometimes you just get into fights with your parents that feel like a knockdown, drag-out pinball fight through your childhood home. Cratering everything, and we sure did make a mess of the house.
Yes. And sometimes, again, like speaking from the games, sometimes you want to be a big damn hero. Sometimes you want to see a tragic tale. Sometimes you want to see amazing fight scenes in which a devastatingly handsome goth boy turns into a wolf and then turns back into a goth boy. So yeah, I think that's why Castlevania endures.
Castlevania endures because Trevor is a sad emo boy who just needs a beer and a friend or a fuck buddy. Hi, hello, I'm here. Just call me.
Everyone is calling those shots on this episode.
Even the aces. It's crazy.
Again, God's perfect trio. I can be a fourth or a fifth. Like I said, we can accept Greta. I love her too. Also, again, fucking Trevor, you're giving up your childhood home to him. Just fucking propose, you emotionally stunted toddler. Just kiss, it'll be faster. To Katie's point, there is something about, bump in the night. Again, one of the things my friend and I do when we go out together is basically everything closes after 10 these days. So my friend and I will go out driving, and we have this rule that if we stop being able to see the road, or we think we get too far afield, or our cell phone signals start getting spotty, we legally have to turn around and go back. But we mostly do this for photography work. I do a bunch of photography, they paint it. It's a whole thing. but the photo I put in the server the other day is from one of those treks. The idea of like, we want to know what goes bump in that there night. And as much as we want to, take a whip to it and have its face explode, we are just as likely to hold out our hand and say, hey, come sit by us for a while. Tell us a story and we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, for me, starting with Castlevania, I think part of the reason why Castlevania endures, first of all, it is a video game series that is still being made and still making money. So, of course, they're making sequels to it. That said, the lore of Castlevania remains compelling because you have this setup where once a century, Dracula's castle shows up, and you have to defeat Dracula in order to end the scourge on the land. And so having this sort of cycle already built into your story and your world building makes it really compelling to see how the stories evolve across generations. I'm a huge fan of a repetitive cycle and a generational cycle in trauma, and that's just built into Castlevania even before you get into Alucard, just with the Belmonts themselves. So there's something very compelling there from the story perspective beyond having this ability to explore a spooky castle and fight terrifying monsters and just have this sort of goth beat 'em up or this goth video game that the aesthetic is really compelling to me in general, but again, have not played, so sorry.
No, we do not apologize for not engaging with certain pieces of media in this house. Unless, of course, that's what we're covering, so we're not covering the game, so there you are.
Part of the reason why I think Dracula endures is that there are literary vampires that predate Dracula. Part of the reason why Dracula himself and as a book remains so popular is because it is a full novel. And it's a novel that asks a lot of questions, but one of the ones that is perhaps most compelling is, what would you do to protect the people you love? What would you do if you were determined for love to save the day? And I think through various retellings, that love has been extended to different characters, Dracula himself. And so through reinterpretations and stories that deviate from that particular question but keep coming back to it, I think that's part of the reason why it remains so compelling beyond being sort of the first full-length novel vampire English language story. So it's the first, and it's stuck around in that regard for a lot of ways. Do not cancel me. I know Carmilla and also Polidori's The Vampire predate it. But yeah.
I mean, like you said, this was the one that took off, and as much as I joke, it's not just because of lesbophobia, because otherwise Polidori's vampire would be there. Dracula simply captured the cultural imagination in a very specific way.
Also, one final joke thought. I have managed to go this entire video without mentioning Brian David Gilbert's Unraveled about finding the best Castlevania monster to cuddle, which you should all watch. It's on YouTube. It's very silly.
Fun. Unsurprisingly, we do support monster cuddling around these parts.
And it's not even a euphemism. He's got a system.
Love that. Dracula, obviously, again, he's everywhere. Cultural osmosis has absorbed him entirely, because there's so much you can really do with him as a character. I wish we did more with all the other characters in the novel, but I digress. And Castlevania is a fun take on it. The lore is really interesting.
Dracula has been so absorbed by the culture. He's a dad in a kid's movie. You can fuck him. You can fight him. You can do both.
Romance.
And again, that's part of what I find really compelling about retellings. Oh, I accidentally rhymed there. That's what I find compelling about this sort of thing in general. That's why I made this podcast, because it is so much fun seeing what people will do with the stories that belong to everybody.
And every retelling is someone's favorite, much like Pokemon.
Yes. Final thoughts?
If you are going to watch season 3, please look up content warnings. Please. I'm not letting anyone go into that show without content warning.
It is dangerous to go alone. Take this. Oops, wrong game.
Ayame Kojima, you have done so much to cement Castlevania in popular culture. There is a reason why your art style for Symphony of the Night is what the Castlevania anime is drawing on. So we salute you.
Castlevania is many things to many people. It's a video game series. It's a beloved nostalgic property. It's a character study. It's a retelling. And no matter what it is to you, I hope that it is something that brings you joy and continues to bring you joy. And strangely enough, I hope that is something that brings you hope.
Aww. Well, I don't think any of us are going to top that. Who has pluggables?
You can find me on Blue Sky at Dreams Rebel. You can find me on my own website at blog.filmlion.online. You can find me as the host of The Straights Aren't All Right, a podcast where I gather a bunch of queers together and make them watch straight rom-coms and try to answer the question, are the straights like okay? For those playing the home game, Trevor and Sypha have the potential to be okay, but it's going to take them a minute. Lisa and Dracula were fine, actually, and it sucks that the church got in the middle of them. Also, Alucard and Trevor fucking could have fixed them. Sypha fucking Alucard could have also fixed them. Anyway.
You can find me on Tumblr and Blue Sky at Momentary Horrors. I also design TTRPG supplements predominantly for the Good Society role-playing system, and you can find those on itch.io. The URL is violet-floor.itch.io. That's VIOLET-FLOHR.
I am also on Blue Sky, KDuffy1718. As my bio there says, I do nothing of interest or import, but if you are interested in seeing some of the things that I do that are neither interesting nor important, you can head over to third-country-press.itch.io. That is where my husband and I have some one-page RPGs. You can also check out our radio show. We have a radio show on BFF.FM, Best Frequencies Forever, and that is called Third Country Radio. Each week we kind of play music that has interested us, has got us thinking, has made us smile, and maybe someday I'll have a blog. I'm vacillating on that.
Do it.
And do it. Anyway, I don't have anything of my own to plug, but I will go ahead and plug another charity as I have been apt to do in the last several months. I'm going to go ahead and once again plug RAICES, RAICES. It is a charity that supports undocumented immigrants that are looking for legal support, especially in the state of Texas. They believe in a country where everyone has access to legal and social services, no matter where you come from, because of the fact that families with legal representation are up to 10 times more likely to have a favorable outcome in immigration court than unrepresented families, and are given a real chance to plant roots in their new homes. And there are, minor children who are not able to get representation without groups like RAICES. So if you have the means and the ability, this is who I'm supporting on this particular episode, and I'm going to probably continue to do so for a while because I believe this is important. You can find the link in the bio, and if you want to follow me on all the socials, you can find those in the bio with my link tree.
I second that notion. I think that makes for a perfect hero's call to action this week. And as me, you can always find me at Favor Vieira on basically any social media website you could find. And you can follow this podcast at IR Podcast on Twitter and Blue Sky, and anitretellingpodcast.tumblr.com on Tumblr. If you'd like to help us reach the next chapter of our story, please consider rating us or reviewing us or commenting on the podcatcher of your choice. And if there's room in your wallets, please consider donating to our Patreon, our Ko-Fi page, or the Support the Show link below. We do have some perks that go along with it, and it also would just really help us hopefully make this podcast a little better, allow us to maybe even post more frequently. But even just having you listen to us talk about these stories means the world to us. And much like the stories we talk about, telling your friends and family about us helps us continue on. And I am starting to notice a pattern this Monster Month because coming up next we have yet another wish, this time from friend of the podcast, Amy. Given our numbers, you probably actually do remember her from our episode on the novel Wicked. Hi. So now the question must be, Amy, what is your wish?
My, what a big wish you've given me. My wish is The Company of Wolves, the film by Neil Jordan, based on the short story/stories by Angela Carter.
Ooh, okay. I have meant to give Angela Carter another shot after my 18 years. I am very excited. All right, let's go. Ow!
Ow!
We hope you will join us, and remember, stories gain power in each retelling.
It was almost impossible to believe the things we have seen with our own eyes and heard with our own ears were living truths. Every trace of all that had been was blotted out. The castle stood as before, reared high above the wastes of desolation.